Today is my favourite Bible story. It's the story of Jonah and the whale, God's messenger. So get comfortable and let's have a listen to this fantastic story. God had a job for Jonah, but Jonah didn't want it.
Go to Nineveh and tell your worst enemies that I love them.
No, those are bad people doing bad things.
Exactly. They have run away from me, but I can't stop loving them. I will give them a new start, and I will forgive them.
No, they don't deserve it.
I'll run away, Jonah said to himself. Far away, so far away that God won't be able to find me. Then I won't have to do what God says. It's a good plan, he said, because as far as he knew, it was a good plan. But of course, it wasn't a good plan. It was a silly plan. You can run away from God, but he will always find you.
One ticket to not Nineveh, please,
he said, and boarded a boat sailing in the very opposite direction of Nineveh. Well, it wasn't long before a fierce wind blew, and the boat started to lurch and pitch and roll. And everyone started turning green.
Oh, I feel rough. Is everyone else feeling sick?
Jonah sat bolt upright in his bed. You see, the first thing that went wrong with Jonah's not very good plan was that God sent a big storm after him. The sailors couldn't sail their ship properly.
we're sinking!
They screamed and started throwing everything overboard. Suitcases. They were throwing food, iPhones, anything that they could find to throw overboard. By now, Jonah knew that the storm was his fault.
Throw me in instead,
He shouted to the sailors.
and the storm will stop.
The sailors weren't sure.
It's the only way you'll be saved.
Jonah cried. Splash! No sooner had Jonah hit the water than the waves grew calm, the wind died down, and the storm stopped. Just then, when Jonah thought it was all over, when he was sure he was going to drown, God sent a big fish to rescue him. The big fish swallowed him in one big gulp. Jonah must have thought he died. It was so dark in there, like in a tomb. But then he smelt the rotting food and felt the slimy seaweed. And he knew he wasn't dead. He was in the belly of the fish. Sitting there in the darkness for 3 whole days, Jonah had plenty of time to think. Pretty soon he realised his plan was, well, A very silly plan indeed. He was sorry for running away from God, and he prayed from the inside of the great fish and asked God to forgive him. After 3 days, the fish spat Jonah safely out onto a sandy beach.
Phew.
Just then, Jonah heard someone calling his name.
Go to Nineveh.
And this time Jonah said,
Yes.
he went straight to Nineveh and told everyone God's wonderful message.
Even though you've run far away from God, He can't stop loving you. Run to Him and He will forgive you.
The people of Nineveh listened to Jonah and they started loving God. They learned to do what God said and to stop running away from Him, just like Jonah. Many years later, God was going to send another messenger with the same wonderful message. Like Jonah, he would spend 3 days in utter darkness, but this messenger would be God's own Son. He would be called the Word because he himself would be God's message. God's message translated into our own language. Everything God wanted to say to the whole world in a person.